In the vast expanse of the galaxy, Earth had always been a small and unimportant speck. For centuries, the galaxy's leaders had dismissed it as nothing more than a primitive world, far behind in technology and power. The Empire, a massive galactic force that spanned hundreds of star systems, had no reason to fear a world so isolated and underdeveloped. The galaxy's leaders, sitting in a grand council hall aboard a massive space station, were discussing their next move. The Empire had been growing, expanding, and consolidating its power, and their latest target was Earth. They had gathered to discuss how to deal with the insignificant planet, which they considered a nuisance in the vast scheme of things. "We've gathered all the intelligence. Earth has no real defenses," said one of the generals, his voice calm and confident. "Their technology is outdated, their military barely equipped to defend themselves. We'll strike their space stations and crush any resistance before they even have a chance to react." The other leaders nodded in agreement. Earth's leaders had no idea what they were up against. The Empire's military strength was unparalleled, and the small human world posed no real threat. Another leader, the head of the Imperial Intelligence Division, scoffed. "Even their military leaders believe they are safe. They don't even know what's coming. We can destroy them in a single strike. We will send a message to the entire galaxy. Earth will never challenge us again." The leaders laughed, as if the thought of such a small world daring to challenge their might was nothing more than a joke. But one leader, sitting quietly at the far end of the room, remained silent. His eyes were fixed on the holographic map of the galaxy that floated before them. "We shouldn't underestimate them," he finally spoke, his voice low but steady. "Earth has been quiet for far too long. They could be hiding something." The room fell silent for a moment, and all eyes turned toward him. The leader's words echoed in their minds, but the rest of the council was quick to dismiss his concerns. "Your warning is unnecessary," another general said dismissively. "Earth's military is nothing. Their technology can't even compare to ours. If they have any secrets, they're nothing we can't handle." But the quiet leader, a seasoned war strategist, was not so sure. He had heard rumors of human ingenuity, how they were able to adapt quickly to new threats, how their minds worked in ways that no one had expected. It wasn't the weapons or ships that worried him, it was the people of Earth themselves. He tried to speak again, but his warning was drowned out by the laughter and confidence of the other leaders. "We'll deal with them swiftly," said the Imperial commander. "Prepare the fleet." And so, the order was given. The Empire would move forward with their plan to strike Earth. The attack was to be swift, decisive, and absolute. There would be no escape for the humans, or so they thought. On Earth, far from the prying eyes of the galaxy's leaders, something was stirring. In a secret underground facility, a group of humans had been working on a project that no one outside their circle knew about. For years, Earth's governments had kept this project hidden, fearing that if the rest of the galaxy knew, they would be targeted before they were ready. In a vast control room, dozens of monitors blinked with data and coordinates. The room buzzed with activity as scientists and engineers worked furiously. They were building something, the last defense for Earth. "Everything's in place," a scientist said, typing commands into a terminal. "The systems are ready to go. Once we get the signal, we'll be able to deploy it." The project, codenamed Sentinel, was the culmination of years of research and secrecy. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a network of AI-driven machines that could think, learn, and adapt at an alarming rate. No one outside of Earth had any idea what was coming. They had always underestimated humanity's ability to innovate, to surprise. Across the room, a woman in a military uniform stood silently, her eyes scanning the room. She was the leader of the Earth's Special Forces, a group trained specifically for situations like this, when the galaxy thought they were weak. She had always known that one day Earth would face a threat, but she never expected it would come this soon. "They think they can wipe us out with one blow," she said to the scientist standing beside her. "But they don't know what we have. They've no idea what we're capable of." The scientist nodded. "The moment we detect their fleet, we'll activate Sentinel. We'll have to move fast, but we can hold them off. We just have to make them realize that we're not as weak as they think." The woman stared at the screen, her mind racing. She knew that time was running out. The Galactic leaders were already on their way, preparing for a full-scale attack. But what they didn't know was that Earth had been preparing for this moment for years, and they had one secret weapon: the ability to adapt and survive against all odds. In the darkness of space, a fleet of alien ships made its way toward Earth. Hundreds of ships, advanced and powerful, were set to annihilate the human world. But as they approached, their sensors began to pick up strange readings. Unusual energy signatures, as if Earth was far more advanced than anyone had realized. The leader of the fleet, an imposing alien with a cold, calculating gaze, looked at the readings. He could sense something was wrong. But before he could issue a command, the first shot rang out. Earth's forces had fired. The Sentinel had been activated, and the galaxy was about to learn the truth. Humanity was no longer a small, weak planet. It was a force to be reckoned with. As the first shots from Earth's Sentinel network rained down on the incoming alien fleet, a sense of shock rippled through the galaxy. The fleet commanders of the Galactic Empire had expected a swift victory, but instead, they found themselves under a deadly barrage of advanced weaponry, unlike anything they had ever encountered. The alien ships shook under the impact of Earth's energy pulses. Their shields, previously impervious to most attacks, flickered and cracked as the human weapons hit. It was as if Earth's defenses had unlocked a new level of power, something beyond the galaxy's understanding. The fleet commander, a tall and fearsome alien known as Gorak, bellowed into his communication device. "Report. What is this? How are they able to fight back?" His officers scrambled to analyze the situation, but all their systems were scrambling. The enemy's technology was so different, so advanced, that their sensors couldn't keep up. They were used to dealing with weaker species, easily defeating planets like Earth in a matter of hours. But this was different. There was a cold dread creeping into the hearts of the Empire's leaders. They were no longer in control. On Earth, inside the secret underground facility, the woman leading the human forces, General Sarah Andrews, stood at the command center, eyes fixed on the live feeds of the battle unfolding in space. She had known this moment would come, but she never expected it to be so intense, so sudden. Her hands were steady as she issued orders to deploy more of their secret technology. The Sentinel system wasn't just a weapon. It was an entire network designed to act like a living organism. The AI had been trained to adapt, learn, and respond faster than any enemy could predict. It didn't matter how advanced the Empire's fleet was. Humanity's forces had been designed to outthink and outmaneuver them at every turn. "Initiating Phase 2, General Andrews said, as she activated the next level of Earth's hidden forces. A massive underground hangar door opened, revealing a fleet of sleek, dark warships, their designs far more advanced than anything the galaxy had seen before. These ships were built for speed, stealth, and precision strikes. Each one was a weapon of mass destruction in its own right. "All units engage," she commanded, her voice calm but firm. "We fight to win." In space, the battle was becoming even more intense. Alien ships were disintegrating under the human assault, their once impressive shields no longer able to withstand the relentless barrage. The humans had not only mastered weaponry, but had used their ingenuity to create new tactics, new methods of warfare that no one had expected. The Imperial Commander Gorak, now in a state of disbelief, watched as his fleet began to retreat. The humans were everywhere, moving faster, striking harder than any opponent he had ever faced. His ships were being picked off one by one, unable to cope with the humans' unrelenting attacks. The Sentinel system was like a ghost haunting them, always one step ahead, always ready to strike. "Commander, we cannot hold. The enemy's forces are overwhelming us," one of Gorak's officers yelled. panic creeping into his voice. Gorek's fists clenched. He had seen many battles, but never like this. The humans, how had they become so powerful so quickly? He couldn't understand. There was no way they should have been able to develop such advanced technology. They were just supposed to be a small, backward planet. Yet now, they were forcing the Galactic Empire's fleets to retreat. Retreat is not an option, Gorek growled. We will not be defeated by these humans. Reinforce our fleet and prepare for an all-out assault. But even as he gave the order, he knew it was too late. The humans had the advantage, and they were moving faster than anyone had anticipated. The battle was no longer about winning. It was about surviving. Back on Earth, General Andrews watched the battle unfold on the massive screens in front of her. She knew that they couldn't let up. Earth had always been underestimated, and now was the time to prove the galaxy wrong. The Sentinel system was working, but she also knew that the true strength of Earth's forces wasn't just in their weapons. It was in their people. The humans had fought countless wars on their own planet, endured hardship, and overcome challenges that had seemed impossible. This was no different. Earth's people had always found a way to survive, to adapt, and now they had the tools to strike back. Commander, Earth's secret weapon is operational. The enemy will not recover from this, said one of the scientists in the control room, his voice shaking with awe. General Andrews nodded. Keep pushing forward. We're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every planet that the Empire has ever oppressed. This is our moment. In space, the remaining Imperial forces were disoriented. The humans had used their most advanced tactics, including cloaking fields and energy manipulation, to stay hidden and strike without warning. The Empire's ships, once so confident in their superiority, now found themselves unable to predict where the next attack would come from. They had underestimated humanity, and it was a mistake that would cost them dearly. But even as Earth's forces pushed forward, a new challenge arose. A massive hidden fleet appeared on the edge of the battlefield. Another wave of Empire reinforcements. This wasn't over. The Galactic Empire had sent its best forces, but Earth's hidden power had only just begun to reveal itself. The massive wave of Imperial reinforcements arrived with the speed and force that could crush any other planet's defense in an instant. A fleet of hundreds of warships, each one larger and more advanced than anything Earth had faced so far, dropped out of hyperspace and moved into position. Their weapons hummed with energy, and their shields shimmered with impenetrable force. This was the Empire's final effort to subdue Earth. General Sarah Andrews stood at the heart of the command center, her hands gripping the console as she watched the screens flicker with live images of the incoming fleet. The numbers were overwhelming. The Empire had sent everything they had: elite soldiers, advanced warships, and their most feared generals. We can't hold them off forever, one of her senior officers said, his voice filled with concern. They outnumber us, and their firepower is unmatched. Sarah's expression remained calm, but inside, her heart raced. This was the moment they had been preparing for. Earth had launched everything they had, but the Empire's reinforcements were another beast entirely. Still, she refused to let fear take hold. She knew Earth's strength wasn't in their numbers, it was in their resolve. And they had a secret advantage that the Empire didn't know about: the last phase of Sentinel. Activate Phase 3, Sarah commanded, her voice steady. The officers in the command center immediately got to work. They knew what Phase 3 meant. It was a hidden layer of technology that had been in development for years, one that could turn the tide of the battle. While the Sentinel network had already been wreaking havoc on the Imperial fleet, Phase 3 was designed to disrupt the very fabric of the Empire's military infrastructure. The lights in the room dimmed as the last phase was initiated. Hundreds of Earth's warships blinked on the radar, appearing seemingly from thin air. The Sentinel system had now fully integrated with Earth's stealth technology. Human ships could now vanish in plain sight, unseen by the Empire's sensors. The entire fleet could move without being detected, striking in unpredictable waves that could only be described as chaos. In space, the Empire's reinforcements had just entered the battle zone, and the situation seemed hopeless for the humans. But then, something strange happened. One by one, the human warships vanished. At first, the Imperial commanders were unsure of what was happening. Where did they go? Sensors are picking up nothing, an officer reported, panic starting to creep into his voice. The alien fleet's commander, Gorak, clenched his fists. Don't be a fool. Keep searching. They can't just disappear. Find them. But it was too late. The humans had already begun their assault from the shadows. Without warning, energy blasts erupted from every direction, hitting Imperial ships from blind spots they couldn't account for. The once proud Empire fleet was in disarray. Sarah's strategy was simple: surprise and overwhelm. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier in Earth's arsenal had been trained to strike without warning, to hit the Empire where they least expected it. The battle now seemed like a nightmare for the Imperial forces, phantom ships attacking from every angle, firing weapons they couldn't see and couldn't defend against. One by one, the once mighty Empire warships fell. Some were destroyed by sheer force, others by clever, precise strikes aimed at weak points. The chaos in the Imperial fleet grew as more ships disappeared into the void, only to reappear somewhere else, dealing another fatal blow. Back on Earth, General Andrews watched the battle unfold in front of her. The reinforcements were retreating, their ranks scattering as the humans continued their relentless attacks. The Sentinel system had completely thrown the Empire into chaos. Phase 3 is working perfectly, an officer reported, watching the data on his screen. They can't track us. The reinforcements are falling back. But Sarah wasn't celebrating yet. She knew this wasn't over. The Empire had deep reserves, and while they were losing ships, the war was far from won. The final blow needed to come, and she had one more card to play. Bring in the Revenant fleet, she ordered. The Revenant fleet was Earth's most secret weapon, a group of ships built in complete secrecy. They were unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. Smaller, faster, and far more advanced than any of the ships in Earth's regular fleet. Their design was meant to do one thing: end the war in a single strike. The Revenant ships powered up their engines, and for the first time, their sleek, angular forms became visible in space. The Empire had no idea what was coming. These ships were equipped with hyper-advanced energy weapons that could take down entire fleets in seconds. As the Revenant ships approached the enemy's remaining forces, Sarah felt a strange calm wash over her. The time had come to show the Empire that Earth was not just a planet to be conquered. They had been wrong about humanity from the very start. In space, the remaining Imperial ships began to regroup. Gorak's eyes were wild with frustration. How are they doing this? He growled. These humans, they're everywhere. He was right. The Revenant ships appeared out of nowhere, striking fast and with precision. Within moments, the Imperial forces realized their fate. There was no escaping the Revenant fleet. Earth had surpassed their wildest expectations, and the Empire's once unstoppable war machine was crumbling under the sheer force of humanity's willpower. Back at the command center, General Andrews stood silently, watching as the battle reached its climax. She had led Earth's forces through the darkest moments, but now, with the final wave of Revenant ships sweeping across the enemy, she knew the galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. Prepare for the final strike, Sarah ordered, her voice firm. Let's finish this. The once proud fleet of the Galactic Empire was now a shattered shadow of its former self. Their ships drifted aimlessly, floating through the vast emptiness of space, abandoned by the Empire's commanding officers, their systems failing, and their morale broken. Humanity's Revenant fleet had turned the tide of the war. The Empire's carefully laid plans had unraveled faster than anyone could have imagined. General Sarah Andrews stood at the helm of the command center on Earth, watching the devastation unfold on her screens. Her face remained stoic, but inside, she felt the weight of the victory pressing down on her. The battle was far from over, and the war was still not won. But she couldn't deny it. The Empire had been handed a devastating blow, one they couldn't easily recover from. However, deep in the heart of the Imperial Command Center, far away from the chaos of battle, the remaining leaders of the Empire were preparing for their last desperate move. Commander Gorak, though battered and defeated, had not yet surrendered. His anger burned like a fire in his chest, and he would not let his fleet's failure be the end of him. He knew that if the Empire fell now, it would be his fault, and that was a fate he couldn't accept. "We will not go down like this," Gorak snarled, slamming his fist against the table. "Gather the remaining fleet. We will strike back with everything we have left." His officers hesitated. They had seen the power of Earth's forces. They had felt the deadly force of the Revenant fleet, and they had no illusions about how unstoppable the humans seemed. But Gorak's will was iron, and his rage was a powerful motivator. "Prepare the Omega Cannon," he ordered, a dark gleam in his eye. "If we can't defeat them in a direct battle, we'll destroy them from a distance. Earth will fall, or we will die trying." Back on Earth, the human fleet had achieved an overwhelming victory, but the celebrations were short-lived. General Andrews knew that the war had not been won yet, and that there were still too many unknowns to be confident of complete victory. Earth's forces had delivered a blow, but the Empire was not a defeated foe. They would regroup, and they would come for Earth again, this time with more ferocity than ever before. "General," one of her officers called out, "we've detected a massive energy signature from the Empire's remaining fleet. They're preparing something big." "Omega Cannon," Sarah muttered under her breath. "They've gone to their last resort." The Omega Cannon was a weapon of unimaginable power. Its energy output could obliterate entire planets with a single shot, and if the Empire managed to fire it from the right position, Earth would be nothing more than cosmic dust. "We can't let them fire it," Sarah said, her voice cold and determined. "Deploy the Sentinel network and move the Revenant fleet into position. We have to stop them before it's too late." In the void of space, the final battle was about to begin. Gorak's remaining forces, battered and bruised, prepared their last stand. The Omega Cannon was now charging, and its deadly hum filled the vacuum of space. The cannon's energy burst was building to unimaginable levels, and in a few minutes, it would be ready to fire. All Gorak had to do was hold off the humans long enough. But as the Empire prepared to strike, Sarah's forces were ready. The Sentinel network had already locked onto the Omega Cannon, tracking it with pinpoint precision. The Revenant fleet, invisible to the Empire's sensors, was moving into position. Earth's secret weapon was no longer just a tool for defense. It was an instrument of retaliation. "Ready," Sarah's voice rang out in the command center. "On my mark." The Empire's fleet, now fighting with a newfound desperation, launched everything they had at the Revenant ships, but the humans were ready. The battle that ensued was a blur of energy blasts, explosions, and sharp maneuvering. Every move Gorak made seemed to be countered by a human ship that had already anticipated his attack. The Empire was struggling just to stay alive. But all of it, every tactic, every shot, was in preparation for one moment. As the Omega Cannon prepared to fire, Sarah's hand hovered over the console. She knew this was the moment that would decide everything. "Fire the Sentinel disruptors," she ordered. In that instant, the Sentinel network unleashed a surge of energy, aimed directly at the Omega Cannon. The blast hit with the force of 1,000 storms, disrupting the cannon systems. For a brief moment, it seemed like the weapon would hold, its energy shimmering like a dying star. But the Sentinel disruptors were too strong. The cannon's power systems began to crack and spark, its energy field destabilizing. The Omega Cannon was no longer a threat. In one massive explosion, the weapon imploded on itself, releasing a wave of energy that tore through the Empire's fleet. On Earth, General Andrews watched as the explosion sent shockwaves through the battle. For a moment, it seemed like everything had stopped. The vastness of space, the violence of the war, everything fell silent. The Omega cannon had been destroyed, and with it, the Empire's last hope of defeating humanity. But even as the Imperial fleet faltered, Sarah knew this wasn't the end. The Empire was dangerous, ruthless, and had resources beyond imagination. It was only a matter of time before they would regroup, learn from their defeat, and come for Earth again. The galaxy hung in a strange, eerie silence after the battle. The Earth had survived, its forces having dealt a devastating blow to the Empire. The Revenant fleet had proved to be an unexpected force of nature, and the Omega cannon, the Empire's last hope, was destroyed. Earth's victory felt monumental, a moment of triumph that echoed across the stars. But General Sarah Andrews couldn't shake the feeling that something darker was lurking just beyond the horizon. Back on Earth, the mood was a mixture of cautious optimism and somber reflection. People celebrated, yes, but their celebrations were muted, aware of the long road that still lay ahead. The Empire had been hurt, but it was not defeated. Not yet. "We've held them off for now," Sarah said in her office, her voice steady as she looked out over the horizon. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the city below. "But we need to be prepared for what comes next." Her officer, Commander Jackson, nodded. "The Empire won't forget this. They'll rebuild. They'll come for us again." Sarah turned to him, her gaze sharp. "Exactly. They're not like any other enemy we faced. If they were beaten back this time, it'll only make them more determined. We can't drop our guard." In the deep recesses of the Empire's remaining command ships, the leaders were reeling from the defeat, but their resolve was hardening. They had underestimated Earth's power, and now they knew just how dangerous humanity was. But Gorak, the furious Imperial commander, was not a man to accept failure. He wasn't about to let this setback be the end of the Empire. "We will rebuild," he growled, pacing back and forth in the command center. His officers stood by, wary of his anger. "And when we strike again, Earth will know true fear." He paused, turning to a shadowed figure in the room. The mysterious figure was one of the highest-ranking scientists in the Empire, a being known only as Dr. Xalan. "Prepare the Ascendant Project," Gorak ordered, his voice low. "We'll need it to turn the tide of this war." Dr. Xalan's eyes gleamed with cold calculation. The Ascendant Project was an experiment of terrifying potential, a weapon so powerful it could reshape the very fabric of the galaxy. It was humanity's worst nightmare, and they had no idea it was coming. "We'll begin immediately," Dr. Xalan replied, the promise of vengeance in his voice. Back on Earth, Sarah and her team continued their preparations. The Sentinel network had proven invaluable, but Sarah knew it wouldn't be enough to hold off the Empire forever. She needed to do more. Think bigger. "We've made progress with the Revenant fleet," Commander Jackson said, studying the data on his screen. "We can keep improving the stealth systems and the energy weapons, but we need something new, something the Empire can't predict." Sarah tapped her chin thoughtfully. "The Empire is focused on brute force and overwhelming numbers. They underestimate our ability to adapt. That's where we have the advantage." "Adapt how?" Jackson asked. "We need to use their own tactics against them," Sarah said, her voice gaining strength. "We've got stealth technology, advanced weapons, and human ingenuity. But what we really need is a way to get inside their systems, sabotage their command structure from within. That's where we focus next." Jackson raised an eyebrow. "You're talking about infiltrating the Empire, aren't you?" Sarah nodded. "Exactly. We need to disrupt them from the inside out. If we can take down their leaders, destabilize their command, we'll have a chance to bring this war to an end." Meanwhile, on the Imperial capital ship, Gorak paced furiously in his quarters, eyes narrowed in fury. His mind raced with plans of revenge, but something gnawed at the back of his thoughts. How had Earth managed to defeat his Omega cannon so easily? How had they known what to do? The humans were more resourceful than he had ever imagined. Gorak turned to Dr. Xalan, who had been silently observing from the corner of the room. What did we miss? We've had the best scientists working on our weapons and technology, but we're always a step behind them. Dr. Xalan smiled coldly, a glint of dark amusement in his eyes. Perhaps it's not just their technology we're up against, Commander. Perhaps we've underestimated something far more dangerous. Their minds. On Earth, Sarah's plans to infiltrate the Empire were already in motion. A new unit, one specially trained for espionage and sabotage, was being formed. These elite operatives would infiltrate the Empire's ranks, gather critical intelligence, and do whatever it took to weaken the Empire's power structure. "We'll call them Spectres," Sarah said, her eyes sharp with determination. "They'll work in the shadows, and no one will even know they're there." The Spectres would be a special force designed for covert operations, using advanced stealth and hacking technology to break into the Empire's communications, disrupt their supply lines, and sabotage their key military projects. The success of this mission could turn the tide of the war entirely in humanity's favor. But in the darkness of space, Gorak was already preparing his own weapon, one that would make the Revenant fleet and Earth's secret forces look like mere toys. The Ascendant Project was about to be unleashed, and with it, the Empire's most terrifying weapon ever. Dr. Xalan stood before the glowing interface of the project, his hands moving across the controls with precise efficiency. The machine hummed to life, its core glowing with intense energy. In a few short moments, the weapon would be ready. "You've created a monster," Gorak said, his voice cold and dark. "And the galaxy will feel its wrath." The Spectres were already deep inside enemy territory, moving like ghosts through the vast reaches of the Empire's warships. Their mission was clear: gather intelligence, sabotage the Empire's most critical systems, and destabilize their leadership. But Sarah knew that as powerful as her forces were, the Empire was still holding one ace up its sleeve: the Ascendant Project. No one knew exactly what it was, but Sarah had no doubt it would be their greatest threat yet. Back on Earth, the tension was palpable. Sarah and her command team waited, eyes fixed on their screens, watching as the Spectres infiltrated Imperial ships one by one. They were experts in stealth, trained to move without leaving a trace, and yet every step they took brought them closer to a danger they couldn't yet understand. Inside the Empire's deepest stronghold, Commander Gorak was pacing again, his anger simmering beneath his controlled exterior. The Ascendant Project was almost ready. The weapon would give him power beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. It would allow him to crush Earth's forces without even breaking a sweat. He couldn't afford to wait any longer. "It's time," Gorak muttered, his voice cold as ice. "Activate the Ascendant Project. We will finish this once and for all." Dr. Xalan, standing at his side, nodded, his fingers dancing over the control panel. A low hum filled the air, and the lights on the ship flickered. The energy from the Ascendant Project began to pulse, filling the ship with a feeling of imminent destruction. The weapon was coming online. Meanwhile, on Earth, Sarah's heart raced as the Spectres reported in. Everything was going according to plan. They had gained access to Imperial communications, intercepted key data, and caused a few key disruptions. But then, one report came through that froze her blood. "General," one of her officers said, his voice shaking with alarm, "we've intercepted a communication from the Empire. It's about the Ascendant Project. They're activating it now." Sarah's mind raced. She had heard rumors about the Ascendant Project, a weapon so powerful it could alter the course of entire battles, and even entire systems. She had no idea how it worked, but she knew it was too dangerous to be left unchecked. "Where is it?" Sarah asked, her voice tight with urgency. "The Ascendant Project is housed aboard the Imperial command ship," the officer replied. "It's going online right now." In the heart of the Empire's command ship, Gorak stood before the glowing core of the Ascendant Project, his eyes alight with dark anticipation. The machine hummed louder, and the entire ship seemed to shake with the building energy. Soon, the weapon would be fully operational. "This will be the end of Earth," Gorak said quietly, a twisted smile playing on his lips. "Nothing can survive its power." But as the Ascendant project came online, something unexpected happened. The energy readings fluctuated. The system began to short-circuit, and alarms blared across the ship. Gorak's smile faded. "What is this?" he demanded. "Why is it failing?" On Earth, Sarah's officers were working fast. They had intercepted the signal from the Empire, and they knew the weapon was being activated. But Sarah's mind was elsewhere. Her gut told her something was off. The Empire was not acting like it had before. There was something they weren't telling her. Something hidden beneath the surface. "Commander Jackson," Sarah said sharply, "I need a full analysis on the Ascendant project. Everything we can find. Now." Jackson immediately began scanning through the available data, piecing together fragments of intercepted transmissions and hidden codes. His fingers flew across the keyboard as he muttered to himself. "I found something." "It's a failsafe," Jackson said, his eyes widening in disbelief. The Ascendant project was designed with a self-correction mechanism. If someone tries to sabotage it from the outside, it adapts. It defends itself. Sarah's mind spun. If the weapon was designed to defend itself from any interference, it meant the Spectres would have to be more careful than ever. If they didn't destroy the weapon at its core, it would quickly regain its strength and become even more dangerous. "We need to get to the heart of the Ascendant project before it completes its activation," Sarah said, her voice filled with determination. "Tell the Spectres to move quickly. They've got one shot at this." Back on the Imperial command ship, Dr. Xalan was beginning to panic. The Ascendant project was supposed to be flawless, but now it was breaking down. He tapped furiously at the console, trying to override the self-correction system, but it was too late. The energy was too unstable now. "What is happening?" Gorak shouted, his hands clenched into fists.